Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Woman on Fire Entrepreneur Summit. My name is Heather Picken, and I'm on fire. I don't know about you, but I have brought some of the most amazing women entrepreneurs just for you and helping you to really break through to creating a successful empire, whether that is online or offline. And I am so excited to share with you my guest today. Her name is Michelle Scism, and she is decisive, she's driven, and committed to helping business owners build thriving businesses that are leveraged. And she also believes if entrepreneurs would learn to take the right risks, that they could build a legacy instead of just making a living, which is so true. Michelle is a leading authority on business growth. She's an international speaker, a radio show host, and an author and the founder of DecisiveMinds.com. She is a serial entrepreneur who knows how it feels to fail miserably at business. Now, this is interesting. At one time, the bank actually called demanding that their 1.5 million, they actually wanted that back. So you could also realize how that would feel, signing a contract and saying that they want that back. To sell her company for $9 million. So I'm sure she's going to talk a little bit more about that story because that's really powerful. And that's how we learn and grow our businesses. You can visit more and learn more about her site if you go to DecisiveMinds.com, and you'll have the URL at the bottom of the video. And today she's going to be talking about the risks. I mean, she knows it well, taking the risks, actually take the risk or get a job, how to make the choices that will make you more money. And I'm so glad Michelle is talking about this. And if you find this summit to be helpful, please hashtag WOFE. That stands for Woman on Fire Entrepreneur. So Michelle, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Yeah, so I'm so excited to be here, Heather. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, in one of the biggest reasons for me doing this summit is I know behind every successful woman like yourself, there is a story, and a story that really catapulted you. I mean, just gosh, reading your bio, that is absolutely amazing. So could you take us back to that moment where you were actually in that situation going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What was the thought process? What was going on? And how did you really get out of your own way to move forward?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, my story, as you said earlier, I'm a serial entrepreneur. Entrepreneur since birth, third generation. So, my story started early. I started in the family grocery store at the age of 5, and we had a grocery store, a mobile home park, a trucking company, a wrecker service. If we thought we could make a buck at it, we did it. And so I worked my entire life in family organizations and family businesses, growing those. And what actually happened was after I came out of college, I have a degree in accounting. I came out of college and I went deeper into the trucking industry and our family trucking business. And we were, just things were going great. This was the late 80s, early 90s, and I live in Louisiana. We were an oil field trucking company, and the oil field bust happened in the late 80s. And so, like a lot of entrepreneurs, we just kept going with what we knew, right, where we were and what we were doing. I will never forget the day that I answered the phone and I hear the banker's voice on the other side, and he says, "Hey, Michelle, you and your dad in the office today?" And I thought, this isn't exactly going to be one of those fun visits, right? You just know it when you hear it on the phone. And yeah, so he showed up and he said, "Listen," he said, "it's not me, but my bosses think that you guys don't have a viable company anymore, so we need our $1.5 million back." And, it was an interesting time. I will tell you, if you've never experienced it, I hope you never have to. I learned a lot, though. I learned a lot about taking risk. I learned a lot about how to shift gears fairly quickly. We were able to save it. It actually, sometimes you have to do what's that next step. And so the risks were that we had to look at how do we refinance things, how do we take our current clients, go out to those clients and say, listen, so let's cut some deals here. Let's see if you can give us some pre-advanced financing. Maybe you pay for some things up front. You know we're going to be doing this work. Can we get some money out of you quicker? We started to research what was happening out there in the government, and they were at that point, this was a whole, in the 80s and 90s, they were bailing out everybody, and all this was happening. And what ended up happening is we actually found a program where the government came in and funded that $1.5 million so the bank wouldn't take it back from us. They secured it. And so we didn't have to actually give the money back, so it all worked out that way. We completely shifted everything we were doing. We stopped and made the decisions that we had to make, took the actions we had to take to continue the business. And 15 years later, we signed the contract to sell that company for $9 million, and I retired in my early 40s. And it was a 20-year adventure that is unbelievable, the ups and downs of business. And so now what I do is as a business coach, as a business consultant, I work with other entrepreneurs to help them, ride the waves of entrepreneurship. And so I've been doing that now for 5 years, and some of the things I see are the reason for this whole conversation of take the risk or go get the job. Sorry, I was in the trucking industry for a long time. I almost said a bad word. Go get the job if you're not willing to do what it takes to be the entrepreneur. You have to make some decisions and you have to take some risk. And so, yeah, I love what I do, and I love entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs have my heart. We are the people who make this country and this world what it is today. And so, yeah, it's exciting.
It's such an interesting story, and talking about the risks, and especially what could you say for women entrepreneurs? There's a lot of women entrepreneurs out there that either want to start their own business or they've had some success in their business, but yet they're not willing to risk investing in themselves. So what would you tell them?
Yeah. So we have to get okay with this investing in yourself part. There's a couple of risks really we need to be looking at. Number one, you have to be willing to stand up for something. And what I find for a lot of, especially women entrepreneurs, is that there's some issues going on. Number one, they're good at a lot of things. We as women are good at a lot of different things. And so sometimes I find that entrepreneurs find it hard to commit to one thing because maybe they're good at website design, and maybe they're good at life coaching, and maybe they know how to make cupcakes. And if they just focus on the web design, then they might lose money because they didn't make the cupcakes, right? So what I found, and I've been extremely successful in this business, and I think that this comes back to this main reason, is that we have to take a stand for something. So we have to be committed to something. We have to be willing to go out and be seen as that something. We have to have the visibility behind it. We have to be willing to get out and speak about it. Those are all risk-taking steps. And I see a lot of women attempt to do those things, but there's one piece missing. And that is that if you've never built a business on your own, then how much you expect to know how to do those things just because? You're not going to wake up tomorrow and just know exactly how it works. And so I'm a big believer in investing in yourself. And it doesn't matter what business we were in, we always had advisors or a board of directors or something like that where we were investing in the knowledge of how to build what we were building. And so I do think it's extremely important. And I know it sounds risky sometimes, but it's worth it in the long run. So
it's so true, and I appreciate that you've got to take the risk. You've got to actually risk believing in yourself, taking that stand. And I love the fact that you mentioned before you were just thinking about different strategies, asking clients, to kind of prepay up front. So I think that's a good strategy for women that are listening out there that wow, I really want to invest in a coach or a program that's going to help me to make more money. And if they have current clients, asking them, hey, I've got this heck of a deal for you, and I would, if you sign up today, I'm going to give you an X, savings, and that way, they can go back and invest in the program or the coach. Let's talk about, Yeah, let's talk about the different things that you find women, specifically women entrepreneurs, really get in their own way as far as taking that leap of faith, taking that risk in order to be successful in their business.
Yeah, so we find that you know there are so many opportunities for us to take risks that sometimes just the sheer overwhelm gets us stuck in the non-ability to take the risk and expand our business. And you know, if I were able to give your audience one message today, one big takeaway, I am a betting woman, and I would bet that 99% of them are underpricing themselves. And so even if it were an opportunity to go and say, you know what, if you prepay for this much, I'm going to put a package together, right? I want you to stop before you look at that. And by the way, I'm a huge package believer, right? I believe in building the bigger price points. I want you selling one $5,000 item instead of, 10 at $500. That's my approach, is to find the bigger. But the question is what are you charging for what you're doing? And my guess would be that you're not charging what you're worth, and it's time to take that risk, expand on that conversation. When we look at growth and business growth in particular, we're looking at a couple of ways we grow. We expand and get more clients. We purchase or buy or acquire another entity, or we raise our prices, right? And for most of you out there, if you're wanting to expand your business without the money outlay of maybe an acquisition, right? You're not going to go take another business and begin with that business. Then I want you to step back and look at your pricing structure. And I would lay odds you're not pricing anywhere near where you should be, right? The majority of my clients come in and we double their rates immediately. That's the first step. And that's probably the most painful step, is to get that first time done. And then you go out and you sell that a couple of times and you go, okay, wait a minute. Yeah, okay, I was not charging what I should have been charging. But it's a big mental game. It's risky in a lot of people's eyes, because they think, so if I charge that much, then I can't work with as many people, or not as many people will hire me, or whatever that thought process might be. I'm here to tell you, it's so much better for you to be charging what you're worth. You show up differently when you're charging what you're worth in your business. So yeah, it's somewhere I really want everyone to hear and everyone to focus. And then when you're doing that, when you're charging what you're worth, you will see that it's worth investing in others, or having that business coach, or having that mindset coach, or hiring the bookkeeper, right? Whatever those pieces are in your business that you're not investing in.
It's so true, and I find a lot of women can't do it by themselves. They're not charging what they're worth, and then they're shrinking. They're becoming smaller, and they're wondering why they can't get ahead. So I love the fact that you're saying, you've got to really own your value and your worth and what you're charging. And I think just having a coach, giving you that confidence, like, do not be undercharging you, is worth the investment in and of itself. Like it's doubling and tripling, because think about it, if they're working with you and they're investing a big chunk of money, then they're able to duplicate that process. They have the confidence and clarity, and to me it's worth it. So I'm sure that you work with a lot of, like you said, you work with women, and right off the bat, okay, we're going to double your prices. What other issues do you find? Now let's talk about relationships, because I don't know about you, but I work with a lot of women where, let's say, if they want to invest in themselves and they have a partner or significant other, then there's a huge block there. So give me a little insight of women that you've worked with when they're faced against that issue.
Yeah, so I will tell you that, if any of you out there know the DISC personality, I am a big OD, which means that I am decisive, driven, demanding, and determined. And so, sometimes I get it that there's a relationship out there where you might feel the need to get approval to be able to do certain things in your business. I tell you, what you would hear from me as my client would be, so is it his business or yours? And who's really making those decisions? Now, with that being said, I'll get off my soapbox and say that I do get that sometimes those are decisions that need to be made with your spouse, right? Your significant other. And this may be the decision to hire somebody as your coach. It may be the decision to go pay someone to build your website, whatever it looks like, right? Go to an event somewhere, be a sponsor for something where you're being seen as a speaker and that's a paid opportunity. There's lots of those types of things in your business. And so when it comes to the that actual interaction, to have that conversation, I have so many of these conversations with my clients to help them have the conversation with their spouse. And what I want you to understand is that, number one, they're not emotionally attached to your business like you are. So all decisions are made through emotion. It's a fact. All purchases, everything is made from an emotional state. And when it comes to your spouse, number one, they're not emotionally attached. So how do you have a conversation with them that's not going to have the emotional charge when we know that the emotion is where we get the yes? What I do is I look at the majority of the time, if we're talking about a man, right? The majority of the time the man is thinking, where's the money? You go make the money, and he's perfectly happy. You prove to him that this sponsorship is going to result in money. You prove to him that hiring the coach is going to result in money. That's what he's looking for. So let's say, for example, you want to do a program, and the program's $3,000. And maybe you've got a product that's $1,000. That means that from that $3,000 program, you have to come up with 3 new sales, and then your program is paid for. Okay? So what I always have them say, though, is that in this course you want to take for $3,000, you're going to learn knowledge. Let's say you're going to work with a business coach for 90 days or something. I'm just making this up. And you're going to work with this business coach. They're going to teach you how to go get new clients. And so you're going to find these 3 new clients and make all your money back. But at the end of the 90 days, that coach is not going to drain that information out of your brain. You get to keep it. And you get to go and not only get 3 new clients, but 10 new clients. And the next year you get to add 10 more new clients. You get to take that information and expand and expand and expand. And so a guy, especially if we're talking about a man as the spouse, they're really just driven by the results and by the numbers. And you have to completely disconnect yourself from the emotion to have the conversation with him and just show him that you're thinking like a business person, right? Here's the numbers. Here's the facts. This is what they're saying that the return on investment will be. There's your big takeaway. That's all they want, is to hear that. So
that's great advice.
Did I help?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fun little story. So years ago, when I was actually in the fitness field, I went to my dad, a very successful businessman, and asked him for a loan for $100,000 to open up my own fitness studio. And he said no. And I was so heartbroken. And the reason why he said no is I didn't have the plan. I didn't have the language or the coaching that you're sharing with us. So it's so important, especially with the man. He needs to know the results. He needs to know, yes, this is what's going to happen. So
Right.
it's
Exactly
so
right.
important. So let's take it a step further. So let's just say she invests in herself and she's getting some results, but then that person stops because they think they need breathing room or they've invested X amount. But as a coach and consultant, that in order for them to get to their result, they have to go further. So that's another stopping point. How would you address that?
Right. So it's a very natural action in business, the ebb and flow. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether you're, and I'm believing that most of the audience here is probably solopreneurs, or small business owners, maybe a few employees. And so it doesn't matter whether you are in that industry or a trucking industry where we were doing $15 million a year. There is ebb and flow, right? And so we're going to get to those points where we think, oh my gosh, I've been doing that. I don't know if it's working anymore. How do we continue? My thing is to, as the business coach, it is my job to help you see the growth and the things that you're doing right. So what I noticed was that a lot of times, for example, my clients maybe will work on them doing, like what you're doing here, doing a telesummit or doing a teleclass or a webinar or something like that. And they'll come to me and say, but I only had 3 sales. It wasn't successful. I don't think this is working. And then for me, you know, I'm the strategist, very strategic. For me, it's always about the numbers. And so I just look at, well, great. How many people did you have on the call? Well, I had 30 on the call. Okay, fantastic. So 3 sales out of 30 is a 10% conversion, right? I do a 10% conversion on a teleseminar. I wouldn't expect anything more than that. And when you're getting started, you know, if you're standing on a stage, maybe I expect 30%. But when you're doing a teleseminar, I expect 10%. So if you wanted more than 3, you should have had more than 30 people on the call, right? And so it's really to look at, always for me goes back to the size of your audience and how many people you have out there. But when you get to these pieces and places in your business where you're starting to think, I just don't know if this works, the worst thing you can do is listen to your own mind, right? Because it's telling you it's not working and you can't see it any other way. That's the moment when you need the coach the most. You need to sit down and go, so this is what I'm seeing. Please help me see if there's anything any other way. It happens every single time. They come to me and say, I don't think it was successful. I don't think it worked. And then I give them the reality check and they go, oh, wow. Okay, I see. It did. It did exactly what it should have done based on the numbers that I put in, right? Or based on, you know, there's another one I get a lot is I didn't get enough new clients. I don't have enough clients, right? My first question, my clients hate this probably, but my first question is, great, how many sales conversations did you have this week, right? And if you're not having 4 or 5 sales conversations a week, you're not going to get a new client. So everybody out there, I want you to think, when's the last time you had an actual sales conversation where you made an actual offer for someone to work with you? You asked them for the money, right? My clients, our goal is to have 15 to 17 of those conversations every month, and that puts 3 to 4 new clients in their system every month. So if you're not doing 15, 16, 17 sales conversations a month, you're not going to get those 3 or 4 new clients. So yeah, those are the moments, Heather, when we have to talk to a coach. And by the way, guys, I mean, I've been in this business for 5 years. I've built multiple $1-million businesses prior to this. And I've had a coach in this business myself since before I started it. I hired my first coach in November of 2009, and I went to him and said, can you teach me how to make money with all this business knowledge I have? And absolutely, I started this company in January of 2010. I've never been without a coach. I am on my 3rd coach, because what I do believe is that you continue to grow and you get to a point where you need to find the next coach. So that does happen. And I did right at $750,000 last year on my business. So 5 years in, I'm ecstatic. We're going to do $1 million this year. This will be our 6th year in business. So, yeah, cool. Works.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I love the fact that you're saying you got to make those sales calls. If you expect to get those clients, you can't be creating a bunch of content for your Facebook post or whatever. I find a lot of women use that as a distraction, or they use it as an excuse because they don't want to do what they really fear the most, and that is picking up the phone and actually having those conversations. So let's talk about overcoming those confidence issues and picking up the phone. So could you give some tips and strategies about risking, you know, the whole theme is risking, and, you know, being out there and putting yourself out there for business?
Absolutely. So let me say first that I personally am very shy and introverted. And so I've had a very difficult, this was hard for me in the beginning, especially in this business. In prior businesses, I had always set it up so that I had a sales force, so that I didn't have to go do that. That wasn't the part I liked doing. And as a solopreneur, I didn't have an option. I had to figure out how to do it myself. And so what I did in particular that works very well is 2 things. Number 1, I do not personally like to network. I know I have to. And listen, guys, so that first year in this business, I never left my house because I was not going to network. You know, I wasn't going to go speak. I wasn't going to do all those things. I said, you don't have to do that to build a business. And I brought in a whopping $12,000 that year. And then I realized, okay, I can't hide out anymore. I have to go do it, right? I did 6 figures the next year by going out and speaking and networking. But I designed the system with 2 pieces. Number 1, I network as a shy, introverted person. I go network where other people know me very well. And so I'll show up at an event and someone will take me by the hand and go, oh God, Michelle, you need to know so-and-so, and you need to know so-and-so. So that's one thing I did to get beyond me not meeting people, because I would go to events and not meet anyone. It's a waste of our time, right? So that's one. And number two is that I set up a system so that people request to have a conversation with me. So I have strategy sessions open. I have marketing plans out there that are driving people into those strategy sessions. When I meet someone at a networking event, when I go and speak or be a sponsor somewhere, all we're doing is saying, would you like to have a conversation with Michelle? I'll get you on her calendar. And we've got pieces in place. We have assessments. We have things like that to qualify those people. But what I found was, if I didn't have to chase them down, if I didn't have to try to call them and cold call, oh God, I can't even imagine cold call. I just can't even imagine it. So we put things in place so that people get on the phone with me. Because once I'm on the phone with you, I'm fine, and I can have the conversation, and I genuinely want to help people build businesses. So I have no problem telling you have to pay me to do that. If I can't get you to hire me, I can't help you. So really, Heather, for me, it was to get beyond the point of actually having of scheduling the call. And then if you're okay with that and you get people scheduled, and then you notice that you're doing a lot of sales calls and they are not closing, you're not getting new clients. My advice there would be, and there's lots of things I could tell you, but the one big thing would be that I want you to be sure that you are you're in the conversation and you're listening to what they say, and you're not predetermining what your next thing is going to be that you're going to say. Right? So if you will listen to them and ask them what their problems are that you can help them with, and get emotionally attached there, and ask them if they didn't get that, right? So if someone comes to me and they want to build a business, and I will say, so tell me, why do you want to build this business? Because I want my kids to go to college, and I want it to be paid for, and I don't want them to have college debt afterwards. Maybe that's her reason, right? And then I'm going to say, great, so if you don't get this, what's it going to be like for you? And then she moves into that feeling of that not having what she wants, right? That's a connection. That's emotionally connected. And then we can go into the conversation of how I can help her do that. For some people, it's a fit. For at least 3 out of 4, it's a no. We got to remember that the majority of the conversations you have are going to end with a no. But if you have enough conversations, you'll end with enough yeses to build a really nice business. So.
Yeah, I like how you said, yeah, not everyone's going to be a yes. You've got to be okay. And I think women have a hard time with this in hearing the rejection. So just kind of pre-paving that ahead of time, like, yeah, not everyone's going to fit. That's why you have to have multiple conversations. And what
Correct.
about, looking at, and I hear this excuse, it goes on all the time with women. I don't have enough experience. I need to get more certifications, trainings, you name it. What would you say about that?
Yeah, I'd say go get a client. I am, it's simply an excuse. My clients say that I kick them in the butt with my velvet slippers, right? It's like, don't give me those kind of excuses. We see that in the pricing issues. We will see people say, well, I can't charge that much because, Susie charges that much, but she's been doing this a long time, or she's got these letters behind her name, or she's got this college degree. The fact of the matter is you know so much about what it is that you're doing, and I want you to remember that there's a hierarchy to everything. So maybe you are a life coach that deals with relationship, and you look and you see that there's all these big people out there. There's the Wayne Dyers and all these big people, and I couldn't compare myself to those people, you might be thinking, right? I need to go get more education so I can be like those people. Well, what I want you to realize is that there are people out there that are looking at you saying the same thing. And so when you look at that and you realize that yeah, you're not going to coach the Wayne Dyers of the world at this moment, right? You're not Oprah yet, whatever that looks like. But there are so many other people in this world who are waiting for you. And so we don't, oh my gosh, Heather, that just drives me crazy when I hear that they have to get more education, or they know their stuff.
It's so true, and I think it just brings up the fear and security. It's kind of like their security blanket, when really, if
Yeah.
they just got better at their sales conversation and getting more clients, that cements the confidence,
Yeah,
in
because
their brain.
people aren't going to hire you because you have more initials after your name. That has
Exactly.
nothing to do with it. When you get that education, you still are going to have a sales conversation, right? I mean, you're going to still be in the exact same spot. It doesn't give you, I can tell you, it doesn't give you the confidence to go out and sell any better. It just doesn't. So it doesn't really work like that. People do think that it works like that, but it doesn't.
It's so true. It's kind of like I can tell you how to ride a bike, but unless you're riding a bike, forget it. You've got to experience it and be okay being uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Another risk, right? What are you willing to
Yeah.
do to get what you want?
It,
So,
it, it's
yeah.
so true. What would you define, because this whole theme is about taking a risk, believing in yourself, doing things that are uncomfortable. So what do you find that are some of the characteristics in order to become a successful entrepreneur? Like if you were to name, the top three characteristics, what would those be?
I would say number one, to be a very successful entrepreneur, you have to get it that you don't have to be able to do everything. You need a team, right? No one, no, you cannot name a single person out there that's building a successful business that's doing it alone. Not possible. So whether that is having a VA, having a bookkeeper, having someone to pick up your kids in the afternoon, whatever that looks like, right? Get the assistance and get okay with them being better at what they do than you are. I will tell you, I really enjoy my team meetings, and it's because when I have 8 people on my team, and we do a team meeting on Tuesdays, and they are having conversations and they're coming up with ideas, and I sit there and go, wow, I surrounded myself with people that are smarter than I am in their skills. That's brilliant, right? That's what you should be, but you got to get okay with that. So that would be one. The second thing would be that you need to be coachable. And what I mean by that is very few people were born just brilliant in business, right? I mean, we are all, it's a learned skill. And so a lot of entrepreneurs come into entrepreneurship because they have a desire to make a change, or they're working for somebody they can't stand and they're thinking, I can do this better than them, right? Whatever that looks like. And they show up in entrepreneurship thinking, it's going to be a breeze. It's just people are going to show up. Why wouldn't they hire me, right? No, it doesn't work like that. We have to do things, take the risks, have the conversations, get out there and speak, let people know where we are. And so all of that takes knowledge. And so what I find, those that really struggle are the ones that aren't coachable. They don't take advice from other people. And the other people that you should be taking advice from, be very careful there. I'm not saying go ask your mama how you should be running your business, unless she's a brilliant businesswoman, right? So I think being okay with not having to do everything yourself, not having to know everything, and being very coachable. Then the third, I would say, and I might have maybe put this number one, but it's all about being decisive. And so pick a path, choose what you're doing. If you're one of those people who's sitting on the fence going, gosh, I don't know if I want to do this or I want to do that, pick a path and commit to it for a minimum of a year. Do not let yourself go sideways for a solid year, and do everything you can to get seen, to get heard, to have people know that this is what you stand for, and I guarantee you it'll work. I would say those three things are huge for successful entrepreneurship.
Good points, Michelle. Well, this has been absolutely amazing. I really love this theme about taking the risk or get a job, because it's so true. So I want everyone to really take in what you have said. And before we go, could you leave us, excuse me, could you leave us with kind of like a final thought, or your favorite, what I call your favorite quotable? What would that be?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I think that my big thought for you would be that I really want you to decide whether you're in the game or out of the game. So are you playing at this, or is this serious? And if you're serious, then what are you willing to do to build this business and to be successful. And listen, successful in your view of successful. You may not want the $1 million business that I'm building, right? You might just want to make $50,000 or $60,000 a year and be extremely happy there. That's fine. But if you're not doing what it takes to get there, then admit to that. It's okay if you're not supposed to be an entrepreneur. Don't just, why suffer? I'm so tired of seeing people suffer. It's why I wrote the book. That's actually the name of my book, new book, Take the Risk or Get a Job. Because I'm serious about it. Do what it takes or go get a job. So, and it's okay. Be okay with it.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, Michelle, this has been great. Thank you so much for being my guest today.
Oh, thanks, Heather.
Oops. Oh, I'm still here, guys. And I want to thank everyone that is watching here today. And if you found this to be helpful, please, I've been saying this all along, hashtag the heck out of WOFE. That stands for Woman on Fire Entrepreneur. I mean, we just had Michelle here, and she's definitely a woman on fire. So I invite you to go check out her site. I'm going to give that URL one more time. It's decisiveminds.com. It'll also be on the link below this video. Until next time, this is Heather Picken. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.